Ready to rethink your CRM strategy? Get expert insights into the technology shaping customer experiences. Hosted by Mark Vena, we break down CRM, AI, and omni-channel CX solutions. This is the CRM Buyer Podcast.
Hi, I'm Mark Vena. I'm with CRM Buyer, and we're here at Interactions 2025. I'm here with a special guest, Sarah Ross with The Standard. This is an incredible show so far. Boy, I wish people could see the opening act.
It was awesome.
That was very, very impressive. And
Agreed.
And I spend a lot of time watching Broadway shows, so it was particularly impressive. So, Sarah, before we get into the meat of what I'd like to discuss with you, because you do have a breakout session a bit later, talk to me about The Standard and what you do.
Awesome, thanks. So my name's Sarah. I lead the contact center at a company called The Standard. We are in the group insurance and retirement plan space. We offer a wide variety of products and services to all different types of customers. We work with producers and partners. We also work with employers and their HR teams. And then ultimately, I think the customer that I'm the most passionate about is the end consumer, the claimant or the member that actually uses the products that we need and or that they need. And I think a lot of what we focus on is how do we bring people, peace of mind in moments that are really hard? Like, I know nobody loves insurance, right? But I will say I've been in the insurance industry for 15 years. And I think a big part of that is that we have a responsibility to make sure that we are there to help people when they need us. And, typically it's during times that are maybe really tough. Maybe they're struggling with an illness of their own, or they need to take care of a family member. And so I think that responsibility really motivates me and is a good reason why I've been at the company for also 14 of the 15, years in the industry too.
That's amazing, because what you just described to me really is a personification of what the customer experience is all about.
Yes.
From a standard experience. And you've been using NiCE's CX when I get it right,
Empower.
Autopilot, a very long name,
Yes.
Tool.
Yeah.
Give us some feedback on how it's been performing for you.
Yeah, and I would just say one of the things that we've heard, even in a lot of the sessions so far here, is that I think a lot of us have moved away from like the point solutions to really needing to bring it all together. And I think
an integrated tool.
in an integrated tool. And I think that was a really big driver of why we came to NiCE. We have all of our, capabilities on a single platform. Autopilot, which is one of my breakout sessions today.
Yes.
That's all about the IVR and bringing AI into the IVR. And so really, finding ways for us to streamline that experience for our customers. And I think, honestly, my favorite thing about it is that we totally changed the front door for the customer. So we hadn't had a major, IVR upgrade in over 10 years.
Wow.
A long time. But what we did was we moved away from like your static IVR, which I know there's probably people out there that miss the hey, press 1 for billing, press 2 for claims. I don't miss that. I don't think that's something we really should have ever done. And now using Autopilot, we're just asking the customer, how can we help you today? And I just think that is, to me, really the definition of putting the customer at the heart of everything that you do and letting them really dictate, how are you going to help support them, again, in some of these really emotional or hard times in their life too.
Well, I was just to say that is that in the insurance industry, you don't really value insurance until you really need it.
Until you need it,
and
for
typically,
sure.
and typically that experience it could be during a car accident,
Yes.
a health problem, and you're probably not in the right state of mind, unless you need a frustrating experience when you're engaging with your insurer. Now, you did give me a bit of a preview on this best practices piece you're going to be doing on Autopilot.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the subject of containment. That may be kind of a bit of an abstract. I know we were talking before, hey, you want to go grab a drink? We can talk about it for a lot. There's a lot of different schools of thought.
Yes.
Let's talk about that, what containment is, and your perspective on it.
Yeah. So I would just say one, nobody's ever going to agree on really two terms, I think, within the contact center and customer service industry, and that is containment rate and first call resolution. So if you ever want to have a fun conversation with somebody in a contact center, I think those are the two questions to ask them to really get them going. And I think for me, when I think about containment, it's all about just thinking of the word itself. Like, how are you able to contain your customers and allow them to really leverage the self-service that you hopefully have within your IVR. I think a lot of times people talk about digitally enabled experiences, right? And they get really focused on like customer portals, customer websites. But I think we forget that your IVR is a really great place for customers to get what they need done as soon as they're talking to you, right? They've already called into your IVR, for example. So why not meet them right there and allow them to get done what they need to get done? And so I really think about containment as the total number of interactions that are coming into your contact center and how many are you able to contain, that meaning that they don't have to be escalated to a human or an agent. That's how I think about containment. Again, people will see this, and you can find me in my breakout session and come debate it with me.
But it's critically important because this goes directly to brand stickiness, why you want to come back to that company over and over again. If
Mm-hmm.
someone has a negative experience engaging at that customer containment category, they're not likely to renew their insurance with you. So that's really critically important. Let's talk about some of the and maybe provide an example too, technical issues, organizational challenges, challenges that you come with when you kind of conjure up when you tackle this topic.
Yeah. I think the first thing I would share is that sometimes I think we know what the customer experience is because we've done all the journey mapping, we've invested in the personas, but then we forget to actually walk through that experience and really understand what is going on when somebody comes into the IVR. And so I think one of the challenges that we had in the very beginning was even just alignment between the business and the technology teams on, again, what is containment, what is the data that's needed to really measure containment to, and then how do we get our arms around that data that is needed in order to be able to calculate a containment. And so I think, for us, working through those challenges, one of the key ways that we did that was engaging with NiCE. And I know that we're here at a NiCE conference, and so I have to say nice things about NiCE, but I mean them. I really mean them.
By the way, we get a bonus every time someone says the word nice.
Oh, can I get in on that?
Exactly.
I'd like a portion of that. But one of the services that NiCE provides is called Value Realization Services, or VRS, and they are the experts. They have a good pulse on what's going on in the industry. They work with a wide variety of customers. And so I think, again, really partnering with them to define what are the business objectives and outcomes that we're hoping to achieve through leveraging autopilot. And then they were right there alongside us. They were in our data. They were in our systems. They were helping, design and build the reports that are needed so that we can see, again, what's really going on with the customer experience within our IVR.
Well, I want to peel this back a little bit because when you're implementing a tool like this in whether it's your company or any type of organization, was there any organizational pushback? You don't have to spill the beans, but give us a little bit of color on that and how you were able to overcome that. Because at the end of the day, everybody should be supportive of a better customer experience with someone who is, utilizing your insurance services. So talk a little bit about this, the organizational piece.
I think, again, just like other companies, a lot of competing priorities. And then you have something like contact centers and IVRs where people are like, what? Like, what are you talking about? I don't really understand that. And I think a lot of what we had in the beginning was those competing priorities, people of all levels and leadership not understanding just the power of an IVR or of something like containment rate. And so I think for us, it was peeling back those layers, bringing the data forward to say, hey, we have, almost 2 million interactions a year with our customers. Half of those are eligible to be contained. Then you start doing the math, right? And the more you're able to contain, the more you're able to scale. And I think for the standard, we've been through a few acquisitions over the last couple of years, and so we've grown significantly. And I think for me, that really means that we've got to be as efficient as possible, but we also want to make sure that we're aligned in terms of the experience that we're providing. So again, lots of challenges certainly to overcome. I just always find that if you keep it simple and you show people the data, then that's how you're going to get that buy-in to move forward. And also, I think bringing people in to listen to what it's like for a customer to call into the standard. Call yourself. I mean, not that I want you to drive up our call volume, but call in, experience it. Try and go down one of our paths to self-serve. We have a self-service capability through autopilot in the IVR where somebody can add additional time to their absence or their claim. And I think we had a lot of debate between the business and IT teams on how it should work. or how it was working. And so we finally pulled everybody together and we said, let's just listen to it. Let's pull a few of those calls of customers going through it to really have that context of what is the problem that we need to solve and what are what's that target for how we can improve the success of that self-service capability.
So Sarah, at 20,000 feet, as containment, as you kind of look at that in a very abstract type of way, what kind of smart ways exist? Now we've got AI, of course, and NiCE is all about AI.
Yes.
And I really loved hearing during the keynote this morning about how there is a desire to almost blur the line between a human interaction, the old days when you actually talk to a human, and an automated experience. And we're getting there.
Yeah.
I mean, the tools that are available today are just unbelievable. And the proof is in the pudding. Once you get to an experience where the person who's calling in can't make that differentiation, you've won, so to speak. But what are some of the opportunities there, and how do you decide to automate what first?
Yeah.
If you break it down into little pieces.
I love this question because I think there's multiple ways that you can kind of tackle it and go about it. I think one you alluded to, which is leveraging the capabilities that you have with NiCE. Autopilot itself is very robust and it's rich of insights. It's giving you real-time, customer sentiment and analytics that you can look at and that you should use. We're in the process of adding XO, which is an added layer of AI and insights to Autopilot, and it actually tells you where you should be prioritizing your self-service based on the highest number of certain call types that best fit a customer's, request to self-serve. I think the other thing that, it's related to your question that I would love to share is something that I feel like is a little bit more maybe innovative that we've done, which is we implemented an IVR contained survey. So this is a customer survey that goes out after somebody's only been in the IVR. So they've not, talked with an agent at all. It's after they've, gone through, let's say, a self-service experience in the IVR itself. We've seen a 60% response rate to that survey. And I'm like, people are responding and they haven't talked to people.
Which is unusually high.
It's unusually high. And I think a lot of the comments that we've gotten, though, have been, one, really positive about some of the self-service that exists, but it is like hundreds and thousands of comments giving us ideas from our customers around where we should build more self-service. The other thing that we've done is in our regular, post-call survey that everybody has, we added a couple of questions that were optional for a customer. So we basically said, hey, would you be willing to stay on, for maybe another minute or so and answer some questions for us? And we asked the customer if they tried to get their request done online, because they're calling us, right? And if they said yes, we essentially asked them, what happened? You said you tried to complete your request or get your question answered online. Why'd you end up here?
Right.
And that's been a rich, amount of feedback. But if the customer says no, they didn't try to get their, question answered online, we asked them if they would want to.
Right.
And I think that was something that the team had an idea for in the beginning, and we went after it and we said, let's implement it and see what happens. And now it's come back and it has truly fed our roadmap of self-service and where do we focus to make things better for our customers.
In a few minutes that we have left, and CEOs and CFOs love this, they love the fact that tools like we're talking about and the products that NiCE sells and the Autopilot tool that you guys are using, you can measure the business outcome. It's one thing on the marketing level, and this is where I kind of diss all the marketing people out there. Sometimes marketing is hard to measure. I mean, that's not always true. It's gotten better. But in the customer experience area, in the customer support area, where you're engaging, you have a call center, you're trying to resolve X number of cases that call in a day, you can measure all kinds of things. Talk to me about the business outcome component and the standards experience with using Autopilot.
Awesome. So I think first, I would talk about containment. We moved to Autopilot almost a year and a half ago, and we've doubled our containment rate, which was really fantastic within the first 12 months. And what we found is that we also were looking at our deflection rate. So when somebody is, when a customer is going through those self-service capabilities, are they successfully getting done what they need to? And the majority of the time in the beginning, they weren't. I mean, the deflection rate was pretty low, and now really it's almost 40% of those calls are deflected. And so that's been a huge, success for us. But what we've also found is that we have a large large percentage of calls that are eligible for being contained, which means that self-service already exists to support those customers, and they shouldn't really need to have to go to an agent. And so really diving into that percentage and those calls to identify what's happening, where is the friction in that experience, and getting, customers down that happy path. The other piece I would say is customer satisfaction. That would be a
huge outcome.
A huge outcome. And we see over a 90% customer satisfaction rate with the IVR contained calls. Again, high satisfaction when somebody's not even interacting with a person is not very common. Typically, you see those more in the 80% satisfaction because there's not that same kind of level of empathy and, personalization involved. So I think, the sky is the limit for us. I still feel like we're somewhat early on with autopilot, but we're leveraging all sorts of nice capabilities. So we're excited to see, what the future really holds for us, our customers, our employees and company.
Well, this has been a great conversation. I can tell you that I've had a couple of interesting customer experiences just recently.
Yeah.
I won't name who the company is. I'm going to forward them an email from about the autopilot, maybe this interview, because I think they would be
they could benefit, huh?
Well, because the reality is when you have a bad customer experience, it stays with you, and generally not in a very positive way. And it's, most customers will not give a company a second chance. But this has been a great discussion. Sarah Ross with the Standard, thank you very much. Mark Vena with CRM Buyer, thank you for watching. Hi, this is Mark Vena with CRM Buyer. I'm here at Interaction 2025, a terrific event.
Very much so.
I mean, it really has been a stunning event so far.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a moment here. I'm here with Robin Gareiss with Metrigy. Yep. Robin, welcome to the interview podcast.
Happy to be here. Happy to be here.
Talk to me a little bit about what you do and what and Metrigy.
Yeah, so I'm CEO of Metrigy. We're a research and advisory firm. So kind of our name says a lot about who we are. It's a combination of two words, metrics and strategy. So we go out and conduct a lot of research on what IT and CX leaders are doing, what they're spending, who they're using. But probably the biggest thing is we connect the dots between the use of technology and the business value in a measurable way. So how much is it increasing revenue? How much is it decreasing costs? All that kind of stuff. So so we work with both vendors and enterprise organizations.
So Interaction 25 is right in your wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, I've been to many interactions. They're always top notch.
Well, this is my first event here, and NiCE's CEO, Scott Russell, did a terrific keynote. I've seen a lot of keynotes, and in a lot of keynotes you get put to sleep, but the opening entertainment event was incredible. And I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah.
I thought maybe Bob Fosse was going to show up. For those of you who don't know who Bob Fosse is, he's a famous Broadway choreographer. But anyway, what I really thought was interesting, he had a number of compelling themes.
Yeah.
What kind of touched you? I will say one thing that he did say that I kind of reacted to was the goal of a great immersive customer experience is one, especially now with AI coming online in a big robust way, where you can't differentiate between a human and a non-human. And I mean, it's already starting to happen. Certainly NiCE is enabling a lot of that, but that was one of the big themes that I thought was really interesting. But from your perspective, what jumped at you?
Yeah, and actually with that theme, it's kind of interesting. We ask our consumers in our research, when we do the end consumer research, if they want that. And they're not all bought into that yet. A lot of them are saying, wait a minute, I don't know if I want to be fooled. Like most of them say, tell me if it's AI. But I think that can change over time as people get more comfortable with AI. I think there's a few things that stood out for me. One, I think that things are going to move much more quickly. Scott is very committed to speed, acceleration, like getting things done quickly. And we see that across the board, even with enterprise organizations. 64% of them say they like the speed of innovation right now. A lot of people say, oh, things are moving too fast. But when we really ask them about it, no, they like it.
Yes.
And when we ask them about whether it's helping them to innovate, I think it's about 79% roughly say, oh yeah, it's making us innovate faster even. So I think that speed is something that customers want, like the IT and CX leaders actually do want. And I think I think NiCE has already moved pretty quickly compared to other companies, but I think we're going to see that accelerate a bit. So I would say that would be one thing. Another thing I would say would be the formation of the AI Center of Excellence. So it's kind of interesting. In our last round of research, we asked the enterprise audience if they were developing their own AI centers of excellence, which is basically just, multidisciplinary group of people who
Best
come
practices,
together,
yeah.
setting all the rules for their AI deployments. Honestly, only about 38% of companies are doing that right now, but 55% are planning. So I think that will align very nicely with, just companies wanting to leverage AI in the best possible way they can. I think NiCE will help them do that, and that's important because I think a lot of vendors aren't taking that approach, that next step. So I think that's another big one. I think another thing he said that was really interesting is just the move to proactive versus reactive, right? And we've done research on that as well. And about 69% of companies right now say that their contact center traffic is going to be more proactive than inbound by 2027, basically. So I think that's another interesting thing. Like, how can we be more proactive? How can we, like he was saying, get a problem solved before we even know it's a problem? I mean, that's the ultimate customer service. And then I also thought I liked how he talked about the expansion of AI and CX. It's not just the frontline contact center, it's going into the mid and back office. And I've been wanting to see this for a long time because I think the technology within the contact center and within CX more broadly is so good that I always think, why aren't we doing it in other parts of the company? In field service and sales and HR and IT. Let's do more. Let's expand that technology out more into into the world, into the company. And I think he's kind of committed to that.
Yeah, and I want to just
Yeah,
drill down
please.
a little bit on that because
Yeah.
I think what's interesting is that a lot of companies, they look at the call center, they look at support centers.
Yeah.
When they think about, hey, how do I address and enhance the customer experience, they look at things and very well, how can we make our existing processes better? Where I think where he was coming at is how do you advocate, how do you almost reinvent the customer experience and do what you just suggested, where you almost go from a funnel standpoint, go through the entire chain of organizations that touch that. Because I think the thing that's interesting about customer experience with companies, it has such a powerful impact on brand stickiness.
Oh, so much.
And if you have a bad experience at the customer support standpoint, you're not likely to buy their products.
We actually asked that question, like, how many bad experiences does it take before you're going to leave a company for good? 2.5.
Yes.
So you don't have a lot of room for error.
No, I had an experience, and I'm not going to mention who the company is, and it was probably the worst possible experience because I love their products. It's a product that I use, it's a technology product that I use all day long.
Yeah.
And I want to resolve a little minor problem, and it took me 6 or 7 engagements. I eventually had to escalate it because of the work that I do. I had to escalate that to senior management, which wrong answer because at the end of the day, that you don't want that to happen to an average user. But I can attest to that I'm even surprised 2.5. That seems actually even a little bit high. I'm surprised some people just say, hey, you got one shot.
Also depends on the age. The older the age band,
less patience.
Absolutely.
Less patience.
The 18 to 24-year-olds, they're at about 5.7. They don't have their standards built up yet, I guess.
So when you look at the world, or Scott's vision of the world, and you look in the future, and especially from a customer service standpoint, especially from an innovation standpoint, anything that jumped out at you? In terms of what he said and maybe some of the research that you've done enhances kind of where they're going.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the unified platform approach that they take is where you want to be. And a lot of companies
And the operative word there, by the way, is unified.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. And a lot of companies have followed in that. They did that a while ago, and a lot of companies have followed. So I think they're just going to really start moving more quickly there. I mean, obviously, they made the announcement of the ability to build the AI agents, and I saw some demos of that yesterday, and it's pretty slick. It's very easy, and it's working. So I think that's another big one. And we're seeing other companies do that as well. But, I think NiCE's platform approach and the ability to pull from all your data is very important. If you do that in a non-platform approach and you don't have that common source of data, that's going to cause a lot of inaccuracies, I think. Another thing I love that he said, and I kind of see this as a concept that I like, is just the fact that the notion of waiting disappears. So what's the, we ask consumers, what makes you use an AI agent, for example? The number one thing that makes them use an AI agent is it saves me time.
Yes.
Time is important. So if you can take time out of the customer service equation, imagine how that would be. Like we don't. I don't think we've ever really experienced that, except isolated here or there. Oh wow, someone answered on the first call. I don't have to press a bunch of buttons or say what I need. Just taking that time out of the equation and saving it.
Yes.
For people, I think is a huge deal.
Well, and I would say too that to almost analogize it to the movie 2001: A Space Odyssey, where there's a scene in the movie where the evil HAL robot, there's a communications failure that proactively tells the astronauts they have to replace the communications part before it fails.
Yeah.
It's a very proactive. Now that's of course that movie was 1968, a long time ago.
Right.
If you can apply that type of thinking at the customer experience level, where before the customer realizes they have a problem, they can proactively resolve it using NiCE's solutions, that's a big deal. And by the way, builds a lot of trust with customers.
Yes, I totally agree. I was also thinking like the three sort of pillars, I guess you would say, workflow, knowledge, and agents. I think everybody focuses very heavily these days on agents, whether it's virtual AI agents, whether it's a human agent, and how you can help them. I think right now the biggest bang for the buck we see is, I think, just the human agents, being able to do a co-pilot assist the human agents. But we're seeing a lot more interest in and success in voice AI agents, more so than text, by the way, which is kind of interesting. Yeah, but I like how they focus on knowledge and data. A lot of companies put that on the back burner. And you think about this, like, it's well over, our research data, I think it's around 94% of companies right now are doing something with AI, whether it's rudimentary, passive, active, they're doing something with AI. But less than 50%, it's in the mid 40% range, actually have their data unified and organized and integrated. So how can you be doing AI if you don't have an integrated database and knowledge base? So I think that the fact that NiCE has for a long time focused in on the knowledge and the data, underlying data infrastructure. You have to have that strong foundation.
Yes.
So I do kind of like that. And then of course the workflows. And that gets to everything. Whether you're helping a live agent, whether you're helping a virtual agent, you have to have the workflows in place. So I like that. With the innovation and the things that they talked about. I think the last thing I would point to is that, I've talked to Scott, several times. I've seen him present, saw him at SKO. I truly believe he wants to partner with customers. So everyone says that, but I truly believe he wants to do that. He wants to, and you heard that.
It's genuine.
You kind of heard that from some of the customers today. Like, they're not just trying to sell them something. They do actually want to innovate. They want it to be a two-way, yes, truly partnership. So I like that. I like the ability to see customers truly influencing what the vendors are doing and having that two-way street. And I think they're pretty receptive to it.
Well, what was amazing, the three clients he brought up on stage, I mean, these are not small-time customers. You got Disney, there was Walmart, Carnival was on stage as well. Three very, very different customers. And I know from personal experience that you don't get heavyweight customers like Disney or a Walmart to show up on a public event like this.
Very hard.
without them really being committed to this. Yeah. So what were the things that you took away from those three presentations? I thought they were great.
They were all really good. And I was able to meet with a lot of those, all of them actually yesterday, as I presented to their ECAB there. And so I think they're all, a few things that kind of stands out. They all are kind of, I don't want to say bought in, they're really moving forward with the platform approach, as opposed to just saying, oh, I'm going to solve this one problem, or I'm going to just look over here at what I can do with copilots, or I'm just going to look over here at what I can do with analytics. Like, they've kind of bought into this platform approach. And I talked
all in.
And I talked to others yesterday too, who, okay, we're doing the platform, and we're going to turn different things on over time. We don't want to overwhelm everybody, and that's what makes it easy to do on a platform. Like, okay, it's a switch. Okay, my data's ready now. Now let's turn on conversation analytics. Now let's turn on the automated insights, basically, is what NiCE calls it. Let's turn on, a little bit more with copilots. Let's build some of our own AI agents. So I think that just their ability to sort of see that vision of a platform is going to be really good for them. And I also think they, like I kind of just mentioned, they truly do look at this as a partnership and not just like a you look at buying. You could be a commodity, you can be a strategic partner, you could be a trusted advisor. in those companies, they truly view NiCE as like a trusted advisor now,
Yes.
not just a a provider of
Just-
technology. Yeah,
Just a vendor.
yeah, and I also really, in particular, liked Disney when he was talking about how important the agent experience is. We hear a lot about the customer experience, which is very important, but I mean, we've got hard data to show that if the agents are not happy, the customer CSAT scores and customer
Right.
effort scores just go down. So you've got to have that focus on the agents.
Well, and you
I
said
think that's
something I thought that was really
Yeah.
interesting along the lines of, and I think this goes to customers themselves have to rethink the whole customer experience in a completely all-in type of way.
Mm-hmm.
If they look at things, well, our call center is broken in a couple different areas.
Yeah.
Let's fix those one or two things, and we'll let some of those other avenues we'll
Yeah.
get to them when we have to get to them.
Yeah.
Rather than look at this as a complete ecosystem of challenges that you need to overcome. So I was impressed with that, particularly the Walmart conversation. I thought was interesting, the online versus the brick and mortar, and
just pulling all those pieces together.
Yes.
That's a tough job. And Anderson's got it together. I mean, he's got a good vision, and he's been able to pull a lot together. And it's interesting because, a lot of what all these people here are doing in the CX world, you have to work hand in hand with IT. And a lot of times there's some, headbutting there
yeah.
of, hey, what should we be using? And, we don't want to get rid of this provider, but if you do and you kind of consolidate and integrate, I mean, that's where you can get more done more quickly.
So, Robin, in the few minutes we have left,
Yeah.
here, if you put your crystal ball on, we're in Las Vegas, not the Sphere. You put your crystal ball on, and you kind of look into the future.
Yep.
Were there any particular ideas that came out of Scott's keynote that kind of is like a divining rod for the future? Like, you think that was really going to affect the customer experience, call it a category, in a substantial way? Is there anything that jumped at you?
I do think that he talked a few times about sort of almost like bridging a gap between what businesses are doing to serve customers and what the end customer actually wants. And there are definitely big gaps there. So I think moving forward, if the vendors can be thinking about what the end customer wants and not just what their customer wants, that's going to go a long
Yeah.
way. Because we do research on that. We see a lot of gaps there. And so we're helping that customer, the business, to say, okay, wait, you shouldn't do this or you should do this because here's what customers want in your space, the end consumer.
Right.
But if you can take a company like NiCE looking at that second step out, that's going to help, I think, really time things right to what the end customer wants. So I think that's one thing. I do think pace of innovation is going to go faster. NiCE is, we do a lot of research on sizes and market share. They're number one, so they kind of lead the market, and they're going to be, I think, pushing the envelope a little bit more on innovation, and that's a tough thing to do because you're going to have some customers who are really receptive to that and want to do it right away, and other customers are saying, wait a minute, slow down, I'm still over here, you guys are way over here, especially the large, huge, complex contact centers. And so I think that's a challenge to be very aggressive and assertive, but also to still be able to meet the customers who are still back here trying to fix age-old problems that they might have had. So I think that's definitely one. And I just think AI and CX expanding beyond the traditional boundaries. AI doesn't have all that many boundaries, but when you think of AI within CX,
Yeah.
like taking technology like workforce engagement management technology, AI into that, and expanding it out to other parts of the company. And I think that's where NiCE is heading, like to not just be a provider of contact center and customer experience, but
Getting outside the
that.
support center, and that is going to be a bit of a challenge purely because you get into organizational politics.
Oh yeah.
And hey, if we don't have a problem, why fix it? The whole idea of integrating different parts of the company outside the customer center.
Yep.
You get some organizational pushback. I suspect that will happen. But you did say something a few minutes ago that I really think it's a big deal, especially if NiCE can extend that down, throughout their entire customer base, because I have customers of all different sizes.
Yeah.
The whole partnership piece.
Oh yeah.
Because a lot of companies, it's not like I want to I want to engage with you. It's a traditional customer vendor relationship. A lot of these customers, as they embrace solutions that NiCE has, they're going into uncharted waters, and that partnership is a very, very big deal because obviously there's an expense involved. Companies want to see a return. The wonderful thing about the customer experience category is things can be measured. There's measurable outcomes. So COOs like that, and CFOs love that because they can see if they're getting a return. But some of the stuff that was presented today was incredible, and I'm really, really excited about what the future holds.
ROI is a good point. We see right now about of those companies using AI right now, about 54% are seeing some ROI. But a lot of them want help from their vendors to give me the tools I need just to show my colleagues, my peers, my bosses that we're showing, that we're turning an ROI. And I'll tell you the time frame that they're allowing for that ROI now, it's about 6 to 12 months on average, but our research success group, those companies that are doing everything right, they're at 6 months or less. So I think that time frame for ROI is just going to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And so I think standing up that AI Center of Excellence, for example, is going to be a way that they're going to be able to help. One of the biggest things that I can't even believe I didn't mention this yet, but I'll say this is so huge to me, is automated insights, the conversation analytics, the interaction analytics. There are so many gems within that that companies need to start digging into. AI can do that for you. We couldn't do that before. Just to be able to have insights into every single conversation you have. What was the CSAT or MPS or CES score based on what AI is looking at? How well did we do? How well did this group of agents do, or this specific agent? What's our average sales price? Well, you can figure that stuff out with CRM systems too. But I mean, just the real-time insights and supervisors just being able to see where there's a problem and they can kind of jump in.
And the operative phrase here is real time.
Yeah.
No, that's terrific. Well, appreciate your time, Robin Gareiss with Metrigy. Thank you for your insights. We appreciate it. This is Mark Vena with CRM Buyer. Thanks for watching. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Vena. I'm with CRM Buyer, and I'm here with Elizabeth Tobey, the VP of Marketing at NiCE. I'm just talking about Hoboken, where my mother was born, and there's a great Italian food store, my grandfather's store, Fiore's. Got to check it out. I know that Elizabeth will.
Top of my list when I get home.
I'm sure, you believe me, you will text me back and say this is the greatest Italian gourmet food store in America. And it's right down the street from you. You guys are. But I'm so excited to be here. I mean, this is such a great event. I've learned so much about NiCE. And it really is amazing. So I want to talk about a couple of different topics, but let's talk about the topic of agents. The CX1 tool that you folks have, a lot of talk around the autopilot tool, which obviously is big. From an innovation standpoint, what are the kind of attributes does it have that, and I know the word AI is going to come up. We're going to talk about that a bit. But let's talk about the value proposition, its functionality, and really how it's really reinventing the customer experience.
Yeah, I will start broad and I will narrow in.
Sure.
We'll get at least 5 seconds before I use that term. But I think one of the things that's most important here is we have built CX1 Empower to be an end-to-end platform. And we are obsessed with customer experience and customer service. So automating customer service is what we do and what we want to facilitate. So having this really open and flexible infrastructure allows us to have platforms, whether we are talking about agents, and this is where I say AI, to either assist with humans or to fully facilitate automation for customers to be able to serve for themselves on their own terms, on their own channel, whether it's voice, whether it's social, whether it's text. And now what we've announced with Empower agents are these, think of them as goal-oriented agents that can work to accomplish tasks. And it's a big difference from what we've done before with our self-service autopilot and copilot, because that's not just understanding and responding, it's actually being able to agentically and autonomously take action to facilitate tasks, to do things, to update records, to retrieve knowledge, to answer questions, to help with requests. So really being able to take that next step and that next level of complexity. And because we have this platform that is completely connected, it's able to work across all of the native platform as well as all the third-party integrations. And the beauty of these Empower agents is you can build them using natural language very easily, so business leaders can build them in a matter of minutes or hours.
No coding.
No coding. And you can deploy them so that they can be used both for that agent assistant in Copilot as well as that self-service solution. So instead of having to build multiple agents for the same use case to put across every single application, now with CX1 Empower, it's build once, deploy everywhere, which is huge in terms of having continuity and being able to scale really rapidly.
Well, and what I'm hearing too is that from a continuity standpoint, an all-in platform that has tremendous capability of you're not just solving one area of the customer experience problem, but you're solving multiple areas. And the word unified has been mentioned in several of the interviews I've done today. Enterprise customers must love that. I mean, it's not dissimilar, by the way, from a consumer in a smart home experience where they do not want to interact with 12 applications on their phone. Well, if you extend that analogy to what you folks are doing, you really want to have one throat to choke or one platform to be able to accomplish multiple things. Is that accurate?
Absolutely. Again, it's scale, it's continuity, it's that seamless experience. I think it's also really important because we're capturing 100% of the interactions. And again, we have all of the integrations across all of the data, which means that we are able to use these AI-powered tools to automate insights, to allow folks to understand what to automate, what to use AI for, what use cases will drive the most value, and how best to do it. And in that way, it's really de-risking a lot of the AI investment. Because folks know they need to use AI, but they're seeing that the majority of AI pilots aren't yielding any ROI.
Yes.
And so us being able to say, we have all of this data, we know everything that's going on, and these are the best areas for you to focus your attention in exactly the roadmap to actually utilize and facilitate AI to achieve success has been huge. And you're seeing great advancements. I mean, like, I think we were saying in our keynote today, 15% reduction in average handle time. Those numbers are not often heard of.
No, those are very, very friendly numbers that CTOs, CFOs, and CEOs like to hear about. So let's talk a little bit. I'm going to bring those two letters up: AI, agentic AI. My view on the topic is that AI is a very abused term. AI has been kind of around, not like the way it's been deployed vis-a-vis OpenAI and some of the data centers that are now deploying it in a much task-specific type of way. But now with agentic AI and the ability to do things in such a highly productive, relevant, real-time manner, it's pretty amazing. But when AI is kind of discussed within the hallowed halls of NiCE in Hoboken, New Jersey, how is it talked about? I mean, how do you define it from your perspective?
Artificial intelligence is a very broad statement, and you're right, it's been around for decades. There are some new kinds of AI that are now very mainstream and well-known. Generative AI, LLMs, we talk about it a lot. Agentic, again, very buzzwordy right now, but very grounded in reality and outcomes. We can get very nerdy about AI.
And we will not do that.
We will not. But I would say from the customer's perspective, what matters most is the outcomes. So most folks don't need to know, is it predictive? Is it deterministic? Is it LLMs? Is it agentic? These are terms that we can get to behind.
Is it in the cloud? Is it local?
Again, it's more of the outcomes and the functionality. So for us, what we really focus on is ensuring that we are meeting the use case with the right outcomes and that we have the right guardrails, the right data, and that we give the flexibility to the customers to be able to innovate. We are using all of these AI technologies, and what we are doing is we are building this flexible infrastructure that can rapidly be deployed and updated at speed, because the thing about this technology is it's moving faster than anything I think we've ever seen before. So if we're having this conversation in 3 months and I was trying to name specific technologies or the right LLMs that we like to use for specific use cases, all of that's going to change.
Right.
So what we care about is being able to swap things in, be able to innovate, to always be projecting into tomorrow.
Because the outcomes are what's really important.
Exactly, and that's what most of our R&D specialists, our data scientists, our engineers are focused on, all of the new innovations that are coming out, and being able to build our own technology and combine it with all of the other AI innovations out there to harness it for these use cases so that we can move at speed. So again, I don't usually get into the weeds unless we're talking super technical about the kinds of AI, because most folks don't need to know that.
And I won't say it's irrelevant, but it's almost like kind of, hey, I have a great cake here. Do you really care what the ingredients were? As long as they're safe. But here's the thing that's interesting to me, and the word partnership is come up quite a bit. Scott used that phrase very frequently. You had some 3 big home run what I would consider home run customers on stage. The Disney, you had Carnival, you had Walmart. These are not clients that would willingly get on the stage to pitch any partner that they're working with. And there was a level of enthusiasm that really took my breath away. I want to talk a little bit about that because I think it's so important, the partnership angle of working with NiCE.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's our luxury is because we have such breadth and depth of our technology, we are able to go into companies, whether it's someone who's just starting or someone who is massive like Walmart or Disney, and be able to talk about where they're finding pain and where they want to innovate. And instead of trying to take our solution of the day, the product we really want to sell, we get to talk about the problem statement and the intended outcomes, and then start to map the technology solution to whatever that problem statement is. And I think that's why we can really get back to something Scott was saying around we're reinventing and we're reimagining what customer experience can be rather than just trying to make step changes along the way. We're really leapfrogging. And I think that's what you saw with a lot of those keynotes is that we have been able to break down those silos and change ways of working. And this is both on the technology front as well as how the actual human beings from the highest levels of leadership down to the frontline workers are actually being able to work with this technology and therefore change their relationships with their end users.
Well, those are great messages to hear. The thing that's interesting to me with many of the even enterprise companies, even companies that have been around 30, 40, 50 years, just because the company's been around a long time doesn't mean necessarily that a lot of legacy thinking starts in. There's always political and organizational issues that go on within a company. They embrace a solution like you, a company like yours that has a very expansive portfolio of capabilities. I guess the question is that are they looking at solving their problems in a very narrow sense of which you can certainly help, but my message to companies are engaging, and especially as they're incorporating more agentic AI capability into their IT portfolio capability, is that they look at things in a more expansive way. Just don't try to solve the problems you have, and there's nothing wrong with solving those unique problems, especially at the call center level, for example. But to look at the ecosystem of problems you would like to solve, which requires you to touch multiple points within the organization. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that really for this, it's, again, that stepping back and looking at all of the
problem,
technology.
Yes, at 30,000 feet.
And it really is a partnership that we end up with when we engage, because we can talk about where they're trying to innovate, the biggest high-level business initiatives for that year, and then be able to match the technologies to it.
Right.
And sometimes people do start with a very narrow use case. Some of our best success stories with our early AI adopters have been very narrow problem statements that rapidly blossom across the entire organization.
Start to grow, right?
Yeah.
Asking you to put your crystal ball on. We're in Las Vegas. That's probably the right place to kind of predict the future. If you were looking at AI, agentic AI agents, within a reasonable period of time, 12, 24, 36 months, where do you see the world going?
Well, I see
and the opportunities.
Yeah, I see all of CX1 Empower becoming an agentic platform, which I think this announcement today is that first step.
Yes.
Again, we went from a couple months ago, agentic being a very academic concept to now being in production. I think one of the things that's going to separate those who are successful and continue to scale and escalate and elevate is really their frameworks and their way of thinking and their way of working with this technology to ensure they are matching the technology with those outcomes and ensuring success. But what we have built here is going to allow us to harness those better models as reasoning gets better, as scalability gets better, as the commoditization of LLMs allow the use cases to be more prolific because the cost has come down. And that's where we're going to see us going from just talking about an autopilot and a co-pilot and proactive AI agent to talking about every single use case across every single application on the platform.
Any closing thoughts?
Hold on to your butts. It's going to be a crazy year, and 2026 is only going to get faster.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth. This has been a great discussion. Please go to Fiore's in Hoboken.
I absolutely will. Thank you for the suggestion.
Elizabeth Tobey with NiCE. This is Mark Vena with CRM Buyer. Thanks for watching.